left last time was the point where the battles will take place, and specifically the war between the army that will come to Dabik in Sham, and the Muslims will engage in a fierce battle, fierce war with them. And no one will overcome the other on the first day, or the second or the third day, and on the fourth day, the Muslims, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will be those who are victorious. We also discussed about the mountain of gold for which the people will fight each other for. And out of every 100 person, 99 people will die just for seeking that gold, seeking that treasure from the Euphrates. This takes us to the conquest of Constantinople. Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala narrated that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لا تقوم الساعة حتى تنزل الروم بالعماك أو بدابك فيخرج إليهم جيش من المدينة من هيار أهل الأرض يومئذ فإذا تصافوا قالت الروم خلوا بيننا وبين الذين صبوا منا نقاتلهم فيقول المسلمون لا والله لا نخلي بينكم ولكن يفعل الله بيده فيريهم دمه في حاربته. That the last day, the day of judgment, will not be established until the Romans, i.e. the Europeans, they gather at A'mak, or a place called Dabik in Sham, and a group of people, a large multitude of people, come from Medina to oppose them, to fight them. The Romans will say to the people of Medina at that time, at that moment, don't come between us and those people that you are safeguarding. Between us and our people, don't come between us. For these are people who have left their religion. The Muslims will respond and say, by Allah, we will never allow this to happen. Meaning, we will never allow our Muslim brothers to be given over to you. Thereafter, the war, the battle, the fighting will ensue, will begin. And a large portion, 2/3, will actually turn their backs and run away from this war. And Allah Azza wa Jal will never accept their tawbah. One portion of the army, 1/3, will be martyred in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are people who are the greatest martyrs before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And 1/3 will be involved in overcoming the Europeans. So therefore 1/3 will turn their backs, 1/3 will be martyred, and 1/3 will be involved in the victory for the Muslims. And these are people who will never be involved in any fitna or trial or tribulation after this point. And these are the ones who will also retake or conquer Constantinople. Then whilst they are resting and they've placed their swords, their weapons in the trees, meaning they're hanging them on the trees, and they're gathering their animals, then Shaitan will come and scream and announce amongst them that the Dajjal has entered your houses, he's here. Upon hearing this group of Muslims, they will leave their place and go to their houses, and they will realize that this was a news which was incorrect. Then the Rasul has informed us, when they then go to the back to Sham, they will realize that in reality the Dajjal has now announced himself, meaning that the Dajjal is here. These Muslims will prepare themselves for war with the Dajjal, and as part of that preparation, obviously the people of Tawheed, the Hadith tells us that they will be establishing the Salah, they will be establishing the Salah, the Iqamah for the Salah would have occurred. When the Adhan has happened, and now it's the Iqamah, they're just about to stand and begin the Salah. And the Prophet Isa alayhi salatu wassalam will descend amongst them, and he will lead them in the Salah. When the enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Dajjal, sees them, then he will fizzle away, as if he's like salt dissolves, like this. Salt dissolves in water. And if they had left him as he was in that position, then Dajjal would have destroyed himself there, and then he would have finished. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had chosen Isa والسلام, to kill the Dajjal. And Isa والسلام, will kill him with his himself. And after he has killed him, the hadith mentions that Isa والسلام, will, the people will see the blood of Dajjal on the hands of Isa والسلام. This is hadith in Sahih Muslim, Kitab al-Fitn, 2897. The chapter of the conquest of Constantinople and the release of Dajjal and the descent of Isa alayhi wasalam. Now, what you'll find about the ahadith around the signs of Dajjal and the wars, and you have to actually join up, because some hadiths give you some information and leave out some information. Other hadiths give you further information and leave out information that the other hadiths have said. So you have to really join up all the ahadith to truly get a full flavor and picture of what will be happening at that moment. So in this hadith you may think, well, that's not mentioned in the other hadiths that we've gone through, or this is additional information, or this is something that may contradict on the face of it what we've already looked at. But that's not the case. So if we look at this hadith carefully, now, the fact that there's a large group of people in Medina, and they're the best fighters of that time. Are these people Europeans or non-Europeans? Europeans that have accepted Islam. So this is important to understand. Today we don't give da'wah to people and we think that Islam is restricted to our cultures or our race or the Arab lands. This is not the case at all. Allah Azza wa Jal guides whomsoever He wants, and Allah Azza wa Jal will bring to the deen whomsoever He wants, and Allah Azza wa Jal will utilize whomsoever He wants in the way that He wants, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a large multitude of prisoners of war, you could say, according to those that will come to release them, to take them, would have deserted the European army. the Europeans. Now, the reason for that, that's the reason why they've gone to Dabik or A'ma, to either get them released or to take them to task for betraying them. Whatever the case, meaning that's why they've gone there. So this is something that we have to understand. And of course, in this hadith is a great status. Once again, we know the status of Medina. These are people that are going to be taking security in the city of Medina, the city of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Madinatul Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And of course, in this is also the fadl, the status of the Banu Tamim, or you could say the Arabs. What we say today, the Saudis, people speak ill of this and that, the other. But the reality is that it will be the Arabs in Medina, of Medina, who will be alongside these people and who will give security and protection to these people. So Allah Azza wa Jal, whatever He does, we have to accept it. And what happens sometimes is that we try to question things too much, not knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Hakim. The wisdom behind things happening, Allah Azza wa Jal only knows truly. Why have certain people gone to a certain land and so on and so forth? Maybe through them people, so many will come to Islam. We don't know. Allah Azza wa Jal knows. So, as humans, we become very hasty in making decisions and reaching decisions. But here we have a situation where these people would have left their religion, their people, and come to al-Islam. And this is what the hadith clearly says. The Romans will say, give us back our people. Don't come between us and our people. For they have what? They have become those that have left their faith. قالت الروم خلوا بيننا وبين الذين صبوا مننا. Those that have left us. نقاتلهم. They've left us, and we want to take them to task. But the Muslims will say what? فيقول المسلمون لا والله, by Allah we won't allow this to happen. Why? Because they're our brethren, they are now Muslims. And even if they are not Muslims, but the hadith clearly says they are, the Muslims at the time will still have said the same thing, because the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has taught us to honor the contract, to honor a promise, that if someone is under your protection, that you must fulfill that protection, because the Muslim is firm upon the promises that he makes. And likewise, if you have given a promise to someone, entered into a contract with someone, are living in someone's country, and you've gone there and you've given a promise of being a person who is not going to be involved in causing fitna and fasad and so on and so forth, that Muslim also honors his promise, even though he's not in his own country. So whether he gives a promise or whether he makes a promise, whether he gives a contract or whether he makes a contract, he honors it. And the one who breaks such contracts, the Rasul said, in authentic hadith say, Muslim will not even smell the fragrance of Al-Jannah. So what we see today, the extremists and those people upon that mentality, that this is Darul Kufr and this is Darul Harb, therefore, even though I said that I'm going to live here peacefully, but it's okay for me to cause fitna and fasad. Really, they are the ones who are causing fitna and fasad. So here in this case, these people have come to Islam. And it's those that have come to take them by force are the ones who are causing fitna and fasad, the Europeans. But the point is that we have situations in Islam, and we have situations in the seerah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, where he gave a protection or a security to people. He would honor that. Even to non-Muslims, he would honor that, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And he would be prepared to fight for that, for the protection of that person. So the people today who are upon this mentality, the Khawarij mentality. They really use these hadiths just to give the narrative and to glorify the fact that yes, there's going to be a war and this, that, the other. But they don't look at the deep meaning behind these ahadith and what these ahadith are actually saying to us. So a large multitude of theirs will be those that would have left their religion and come to Islam. And the people of Medina would have given them protection. That's a point of fiqh, and it's also a point of aqidah and manhaj also. And the fact that they said that we will not give up protecting them, it shows that these people are courageous people at that time. And they will stand up for the protection of the principles of the deen. And in this is a great station, a great status. Likewise, we can see that those that turn their backs and run away, those that turn their backs and run away. Of course, we know the various hadith concerning this. But the point here is that sometimes even amongst those that profess to be upon the correct way, there are those that what they actually harbor inside will come out in their actions. The ulama of the Salaf, including Imam Barbahari, rahmatullahi alayhi, he made a very tremendous point. He said, what Ahlul Bid'ah show you of their bid'ah, what Ahlul Bid'ah show you of their innovation is far less than what they hide inside, far less than what they harbor inside. Now, so what he's showing you of his innovation is actually less than what he maybe has inside of him. And likewise, on the face of it, they've gone to fight. But as soon as they can see that my life is now maybe at risk, or the fighting will be ferocious and fierce, which some other hadiths mentioned that the fighting was extremely fierce, will be extremely fierce, turns around and runs away. So the analogy is clear that at the end, that truth comes out upon the person. And Ibn al-Qayyim used to say that the actions of a person, or what the person says from his tongue, is actually a translator of what is in one's heart. And if you truly want to see the behavior or the character of someone, then see how they behave in fitnah. See how they behave when they're tested or they're surrounded by trials and tribulations. So this portion who goes and turns back and runs away, the truth was there evidently that they left. And in this is a tremendous lesson, a lesson of Aqidah, a lesson of Manhaj. The Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they don't disunite. Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah is a Jama'ah. The Ijtima' is al-Haq. يجتمعون على الحق. They gather upon the truth. So it is the truth that led them to go and meet these people in Sham. The haq, the fact that they're upon the deen of Islam and they're protecting their brothers. But a portion of them leave Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah at that point. They leave the unity. And as a result of that, who have they harmed? They've actually harmed themselves. لا يضرهم. This is the second point of manhaj and aqidah that we get from this hadith. Because the Rasul has informed us that there will always be a victorious group. We know that hadith, right? لا تزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين على الحق لا يضرهم من خالفهم. There will always be a victorious group of my ummah, and those that oppose them will not harm them. So here you're in the situation of a fierce war, the war to end yani all was literally. And some of the people turn their backs and they go away. Ultimately, they actually harm themselves alone. And the victorious group, the Jama'ah, they stood firm and they were victorious. How did they harm themselves? Well, the hadith tells us that those that went and turned their backs, Allah will never forgive them. Allah will never forgive them for this action. So we have Ahlul Bid'ah today, Ahlul Shirk today. Ahlul Shirk harm themselves. Ahlul Bid'ah, who are claiming to be part of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, their Bid'ah actually harms themselves first. The accusations against Ahlul Sunnah, they're turning their backs on Ahlul Sunnah. They're trying to divide Ahlul Sunnah. They're trying to harm Ahlul Sunnah. Ultimately, we will not harm Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But rather, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they stay united. And these instances of people being tested occurred in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also. Upon the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala guided the Ummah. He guided the Ummah towards the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقلبتم عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ. Will you now turn your heels and go back from your religion at the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? If you were to do this, you'll only harm yourselves. You will not harm the religion in the slightest. Muhammad was a Rasul like the Rasuls that came before him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we see the same situation here. And of course, in this is a lesson also that Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah shouldn't panic. And Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah shouldn't be concerned just about numbers. Just about numbers. Imagine you're in a war situation and you need every single person there. And a large multitude of people just abandon you. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah don't care about just gathering the numbers, but they look at the quality of the individual, the deen of the person. For if a person of innovation and shirk were to come amongst him, he would cause more fitnah than islah, more fitnah than rectification. Wallahu ya'lamu al-mufsida min al-muslih wa law sha'a Allahu la'anatakum. Allah knows those that are going to cause the fitnah and those that are going to rectify the situation. So in this is a lesson for us when we look at these narrations that right towards the end of time, it's the same things happening. And of course, we know that the signs of the hypocrite, in some hadith at least, are three. When they make a promise, they break it. And when a trust is given to them, they prove to be not capable of or not worthy of having that trust. They break that trust. So Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they don't only pay attention to the Aqeedah and the Manhaj, but they also pay attention to the Akhlaq and the Mu'amalat, and being at the best, being the best example for those around them. So much can be said concerning this narration, but we have that backdrop now where this is going on. And the shaitan is now announcing amongst them. So those people who are upon Tawheed and Sunnah should never be comfortable, because the shaitan will actually come when you're upon the book and the Sunnah. When you're already burnt and misguided and you're already upon kufr, then shaitan has no reason to befriend you or to whisper to you a lie. But when you're upon the truth and now you've just overcome the greatest enemy, how high must one's iman be? What does shaitan do? Shaitan comes and he announces a lie. The Dajjal is here, back in your house. He's come. So, the fact that they don't have at that time a messenger amongst them, so therefore there's no one who's receiving any revelation at that moment in time. They actually accept that and they go back. So in this is an important lesson. The difference between a prophet and those which are not prophets. For if you hold on to revelation, you will be upon guidance. Here they don't have revelation. They don't have any idea of the fact that they've been told a lie. But they take that at face value and they return back. And sometimes someone will come with the sunnah on their face, with the sunnah upon their being, with the sunnah in their characteristics, and the people can be fooled and will be fooled. Yani just because he looks at that person and thinks that this person is a person of sunnah. But yet the information that person gives is not sunnah, it's not tawheed. It's shirk and bid'ah and kufr. So Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they're always careful of just going by the appearances of people, or what that person professes or claims to be. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah at the forefront of investigating. But the shaitan takes advantage of the situation here. And as I say, had Isa ﷺ been amongst them then at that point, they would not have gone back, because Isa ﷺ received revelation who said, no, this is not true. So they go back, and then they realize that this was not truthful. And then eventually the Dajjal, he is released. The conquest of Constantinople. Just as a side point, something that Shaykh Fawzan Hafidhullah mentions when he discusses this hadith, the fact that those that were martyred in this battle are from amongst the best, or are the best shuhada, the best martyrs. The Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't just restrict it to that in this hadith, but he went on and he said that Allah Azza wa Jal will never embroil these people in fitnah again. So therefore, it's from one of the greatest blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if He saves a person from being involved in fitnah. If He saves a person from falling into or being involved in trials and tribulations and fitnah. And as a reward here, Allah Azza wa Jal is rewarding these people for those that were martyred, that they will never be involved in fitnah again. Meaning, they will be going to Jannah. There will be no fitnah for them, no trial, no tribulation for them in the questioning or when they stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those that remain behind also, the sharf was extended to them also, as has been mentioned in a different hadith. The fact that they've overcome the enemy, these great people, they've not relaxed. They are still doing ibadah to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاشْكُرُوا لِلَّهِ إِن كُنْتُمْ إِيَّاهُ تَعْبُدُونَ. As Shaykh Fawzan mentioned, that the making or being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll show it if you are truly from amongst those who are the worshippers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they've overcome the enemy, ferocious, fierce fighting. And now they engaged in ibadat salah. So Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, when they're given a fadl, when they're given a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they don't become relaxed. This makes them get even closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is no different here. They're establishing the salah. And in some hadith it mentions it's the Fajr Salah. And some hadith actually mentioned with some detail that Isa ﷺ will descend amongst them upon the white minaret in the great Masjid in Dimashq, Damascus, and he will have water running like pearls in his beard, as if he's just made wudu. And he will come and lead the people in salah. Of course, for some people who are upon the way of shaitan, this is all metaphorical. None of this has any reality or any meaning to it. This is a reality. It will happen. There is absolutely no doubt in this whatsoever. Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and the best of them, of those people at that time here that we are discussing, now they have Isa ﷺ amongst them. So now the the greatness of this is even further, it's even more. And the Dajjal sees him and he begins to melt. He begins to melt. It's authentically reported concerning the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him a miracle to the point that his enemies would be in fear of him, in awe of him, even though they were far away from him, of a month's journey. They were a month's journey away from him, and they would have that rope, they would have that fear in their hearts that we're going to engage in battle with or oppose Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them these special blessings. So here the Dajjal will just see Isa alayhi salatu wasalam and the believers around him. By the way, just a point concerning Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahmatullahi alayhi, he puts Isa alayhi salatu wasalam down as not only a prophet but a companion also. He puts him down as a prophet and a companion of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Does anyone know why? No? So here Isa alayhi salatu wasalam has not come back as a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but rather he's come back as a person of the ummah of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the ones that he's descended upon, they know that he used to be when he came before, he was a prophet. So his honor is far greater and his importance is far greater than all those around him. There are the reasons some of the ulama have mentioned, but that was just a side point. So he will see, the Dajjal will see them. He will see that unity, he will see the strength of that iman, of tawheed, of Islam, and he will begin to melt like water, like salt dissolves in water. And it is Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. So do you see now we know from other hadith how and where Isa alayhi salatu wasalam will kill Dajjal, but this hadith is just summarizing this. Isa alayhi salatu wasalam will kill Dajjal with his own hands, and then the people around him will see the blood on the hands of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. Where will Isa alayhi salatu wasalam kill Dajjal?
In the gate of Luton.
Gate of Luton, yeah. So that place exists today also. So narrations are of two types. There are those narrations which are tawil, which are long and detailed, and they go through many things, and then there are narrations which are mukhtasar, summarized versions of lengthier narrations. So this is why when we read this, if you just read this hadith, you'd have a snapshot view of what would be happening at that time, but you would have to read other hadiths, as I said, to get a true picture. And this is where Ahlul Bid'ah, this is a great mistake that they make, that they will leave the more clear, the more detailed information, and they will maybe hide behind that which is less detailed. And there are many examples of Ahlul Bid'ah doing this. I don't want to veer off the topic, but Ahlul Bid'ah are known for doing this. Ahlul Sunnah, they take the summarized narration and they understand that summarized narration based upon the lengthy narration. Ahlul Bid'ah, sometimes they hide behind a summarized narration and they leave the more detailed narration. And one example from amongst maybe hundreds that the ulama have collected is the hadith of the man, for those who want to know examples of Ahlul Bid'ah doing this, hadith of the man who prayed incorrectly. Irji' fasalli fa innaka lam tusalli. O Prophet of Allah, I've prayed. No, you haven't. Go back and pray. Irji' fasalli fa innaka lam tusalli. Again and again. I've prayed. No, you haven't. Go back and pray. O Prophet of Allah, I know no other way to pray other than this. So the hadith mentions that Rasulullah will teach him that you make the takbir, then you make the ruku, and you be at peace, then you go and you stand and you go into sujood then. So from this narration, the modern day so-called scholars of a certain madhab, they say, see, this hadith doesn't mention the Raful Yadayn. No, really. They say, see, this hadith doesn't mention that the Prophet said to this companion, the one who prayed incorrectly, pray Fatiha. So, therefore, we don't need to make the Raf'ul Yadayn meaning raising the hands for Subhan Rabbi al-Azim and Sami Allahu Hamida. And the Fatiha, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And this hadith doesn't mention that. So they say, therefore, this is not from the Sunnah. So this is the way of Ahlul Bidah. May Allah save us from that way and from that manhaj. As for Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, whether it's narrations of Ash'at al-Sa'ah, the signs of the Day of Judgment, or anything other than that, they take the general or the summarized narration and they understand it in line with, in view with the narrations which have more detail. Now, Nafi bin Utbah narrated that Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, تَغْزُونَ جَزِيرَةَ الْعَرَبِ فَيَفْتَحُهَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ فَارِسَ فَيَفْتَحُ اللَّهُ ثُمَّ تَغْزُونَ الرُّومَ فيفتح الله ثم تغزون الدجال فيفتح الله قال فقال نافي يا جابر أن أرى الدجال يخرج حتى يفتح الروم. That when you engage in a war with the people of the Jaziratul Arab, they will make you, those people will make you the conquerors of that place, the conquerors of that land. Then you will fight the Persians, and they will make you also the conquerors of that land. Then you will fight the Europeans, and they will make you the conquerors also. Then you will fight you will be the conquerors. Then you will fight the Dajjal. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow you to have victory over him also. Then Nafi radiallahu ta'ala said to the companion Jabir radiallahu ta'ala, according to our knowledge, the Dajjal will not make himself apparent up until the Romans are not overcome. So this is once again a summarized version, an even further summarized version of the hadith that we've just gone through in some detail. History tells us that in the year 1453, Sultan Mahmud al-Fatih actually conquered Constantinople. And a hadith informs us that Constantinople was also conquered about 40-something years after Hijrah, in which some of the Sahaba were also part of the Jaysh, part of the army that conquered Constantinople, including the likes of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Some people mention, and some of the scholars have differed over this, that Yazid was also a part of that army, which was the army which conquered Constantinople. Now that's significant because Rasul informed us in a different hadith that the fire of hell will be made haram on those from my ummah who will be involved in the conquering of Constantinople. So some of the scholars have differed on whether Yazid was our Shaykh Zubair Ali Zayd rahmatullahi alayhi. He has, in my view, from what I've read, and Allah knows best, proven that Yazid was not a part of that army. But the likes of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari and other than him, they were. So that's something, if you come across it, I thought I'd mention it. As for this last conquering that will occur, it will occur after this major fight with the Europeans towards the end of times. So this is yet to occur. Allah knows best. Likewise, from amongst the signs, and this is all linked into that, the narration actually which mentions the conquering of Constantinople. Within it, it says, فَبَيْنَاهُمْ يَكْتَسِمُونَ الْغَنَائِمَ قَدْ عَلَّقُوا سُيُوفَهُمْ بِالزَّيْتُونَ. That after the Muslims have conquered or taken Constantinople, and we know through other ahadith how that will happen. Will any arrows be fired or any blood be shed for the conquering of Constantinople at this time? What will happen? So, the strength of the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you want to know and see what that's about, then look at how that group of Muslims will conquer Constantinople. And after they have done that, they will be resting, and they will take their swords and they will be placing them on the trees, the olive trees. And they will be splitting the animals amongst themselves. So some of the ulama have mentioned concerning this hadith, the fact that these warriors, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah at that time, were involved in this, engaged in this war, will be hanging their swords upon the tree, shows that fighting will revert back to its basic form, you could say. Meaning fighting with the sword. Some of the scholars have commented that the war which took place before this, meaning the war in Sham, between the Romans, Europeans, and the Muslims of Medina, within that war, because the fighting will be so fierce, and some of the hadith mentioned that the fighting will be so fierce that there will not be even a bird that flies except that it falls down dead above that war, except that it falls down dead. That's how fierce the fighting will be. In authentic hadith, that's mentioned. So they comment that the modern warfare at that time, or the modern machinery of war, would have been destroyed in that war. It would have all been used up in that war. Therefore, people will have to revert back to, when it comes to Constantinople, which occurs after that, will revert back to the sword. There'll be no modern machinery of war left. Others have made their own ta'wilat or their own tafsil concerning it. Some narrations mention that the people will be on horseback, and they'll be the best horse riders of that time. That's also in Sahih Muslim, by the way. And Isa alayhi salatu wasalam will kill Dajjal how? With a gun? With his spear. Yeah. So the ulama use all of these evidences, a group of ulama at least, and they say that this shows us that fighting at that time, the point that it is referring back to its basic form, is a sign out that the day is getting nearer. Allah knows best. Other ulama have simply stayed silent and haven't commented as to why the Muslims will be, and he says that will be fighting with the sword. Some people, they've also commented and made ta'wil actually. A very insignificant minority actually, if you want to say, that there'll be no more oil or energy, whatever form of energy is used at that time to make the machinery work, it'll no longer be available. So therefore, people will have to revert back to fighting with the sword. Now, from where will Dajjal appear then? So we know from the hadith of Fatima bint Qais that we've gone through, where the Rasul said that he's from the going to appear from the Mashriq, the east, and he pointed towards the east. We went through that hadith. We also have the hadith of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. الدجال يخرج من أرض بالمشرق يقال لها خراسان يتبعه أقوام كأن وجوههم المجان المطرقة. That he will appear from the east, and the place that he will be appeared from will be called Khurasan, and those that will be upon his way, or those that will be following him, their faces will be wide like shields, and shiny and wide like shields. Sheikh Albani has actually authenticated this hadith in his silsila. The hadith itself is in Tirmidhi. Nawas bin Sam'an has said, the Rasul said, إِنَّهُ خَارِجٌ خَلَّةً بَيْنَ الشَّامِ وَالْإِرَاقِ فَأَثَى يَمِينًا وَأَثَى شِمَالًا. Dajjal will appear between Sham and Iraq. The desert between these two places. Say Muslim again. Anas radiallahu ta'ala narrated the Rasul said, يَخْرُجُ الدَّجَّالُ مِنْ يَهُودِيَّتِهِ أَصْبَحَانَ مَعْهُ 70,000 مِنَ الْيَهُودِ. That Dajjal will come from the area known as Asbahan. And the place within that area will be a place called Yahuda. And he will have with him an army of 70,000 Yahud. Those who will be supporting him. So, to someone who reads these 4 or 5 different narrations, on the face of it, they may seem a great contradiction. Iraq, Sham, between Iraq and Sham, Yahuda, Asbahan, from the east. But the scholars have commented that there's no conflict or dispute or contradiction in any of these narrations. Number one, they're all authentic. And the tatbiq, the reconciliation that the scholars have made, the scholars of hadith, by the way. If you want to learn hadith, learn it from the scholars of hadith. If you want to learn fiqh, learn it from the scholars of hadith also. If you want to learn tafsir, learn it from the scholars of hadith. Because with the sunnah is Islam, and Islam is a sunnah. Those people who know the sunnah, those people who understand the sunnah, those people who know whether the sunnah is authentically reported or not, they're best placed to tell you what the sunnah is and the ruling to be derived from that sunnah. But if you want hocus pocus, go to Imran Nazir and these are the people over there, their own thoughts and opinions. These are not scholars, never mind scholars of hadith. They're not scholars. So, however, the ulama of hadith, the scholars who have narrated these narrations, have they made tatbiq, meaning reconcile, brought together the meaning of these narrations. And actually, in today's lesson, this has been a very important and valuable lesson, that not to take narrations in isolation. And especially when it relates to affairs of the unseen, to be able to put all the narrations together and to have a balanced and a full view concerning that. So the scholars have said that the Dajjal will appear from the east, from a place known as Khurasan, from the area of Asbahan, meaning the place called was known as Yehuda. Then he will go to the Hijaz, towards and the Hijaz is the desert area between Sham and Iraq, and he will be placed there. And it's from there that he will be leading his army to attack the Arabs, to march towards Mecca and Medina. So if you map out and plan out the journey like this, all of the ahadith are therefore put into one place. And this is a good tafsir that has been made concerning this, and Allah knows best. Now, Nafi reports Laki ibn Umar that he met Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. السياد في بعض طرق المدينة فقال له قولا أكذبه فانفخ حتى السكة فدخل ابن عمر على حفصة وقد بلغها فقالت له رحمك الله ما أردت من ابن السياد أما علمت أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إنما يخرج من غضبة يغضبها. Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala who was walking the streets of Medina and he met Ibn Sayyad. Something was said between them which made Ibn Sayyad go into a frenzy and very angry. And he started to shout at the people and gather the people. Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala who went to Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala anha, who'd already heard that Ibn Umar and Ibn Sayyad had had this altercation. So Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala anha said to Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anha, may Allah have mercy on you, why have you entered into this dispute, this argument with Ibn Sayyad? What is it that you want of him? Do you not know, are you not aware that the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has informed us that the Dajjal will appear because of someone's anger? أما علمت أن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إنما يخرج من غضبة يغضبها. Do you not know that the Rasul صلى الله عليه وسلم has said that the Dajjal will appear due to anger? Now, what do we know about this hadith? Have we come across this hadith before? So maybe this is a good time to finish it here, for this hadith requires some tafsir. Who's Ibn Sayyad? No. That's right. Some of the Sahaba thought, and in fact the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam would hide behind places and look at Ibn Sayyad and look at his actions and look at what he was saying. And the companions were no different. And in fact, Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he used to swear by Allah by the fact that this is a Dajjal. Convinced. And the other Sahaba, they said, no, this is not the Dajjal. He doesn't meet the criterion. But here we have Ibn Umar, who is a scholar from amongst the Sahaba. He says something to Ibn Sayyad for to become angry. But when he goes to Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala anha, she reprimands him and says that the Rasul said that the Dajjal will appear by the anger of, so when he'll be so angered that he will appear. So if he is as you think he is, then the worst thing you do is to make him angry. It just shows us, brothers and sisters, that the best of the people after the Anbiya, the Sahaba, they were always fearful of the fact that they didn't want to be around when the Dajjal appeared, because the fitna of the Dajjal is so severe and so great. And of course, this is in line with the hadith of Rasulullah لا تتمنى لقاء العدو. Don't have this desire to want to meet your enemy on the battlefield. Unlike the wannabe gangsters today, who think they're the most courageous people on the earth because they have a knife in their pocket. And actually, that knife is something which is something which may lead to total and utter devastation for entirely the wrong reasons. Taking an innocent person's life or maiming or harming someone. This is the world that we live in today, the society that we live in today. Our youngsters are carrying these weapons. But as for the Sahaba, who fought alongside Rasulullah, who saw the deen of Islam be established before their very eyes, from nothing to all over the Arab lands and going beyond that also. But here we have senior Sahaba being told, why are you making him angry for the Dajjal will appear when? So it shows us that the Sahaba, the true courageous people, the most courageous people, they were never comfortable with their deeds. Rather, they feared that they may be engaged in fitnah, or they may be engaged in something which may make them lose their deeds. And they were fearful of being involved in fitnah which they couldn't handle, which would make their life difficult for them. Preserving their deen, preserving their religion. Because the fitnah of the Dajjal isn't the fact that the Sahaba were afraid of death. That's not the case. What they were fearful of was that the Dajjal's trials and tribulations would be so severe that the people would leave their religion. And this is the Sahaba of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Those who had suhbah, those who had companionship of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is how Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah is all about safeguarding the religion. And this is from amongst the most fundamental considerations that one should have. And Allah knows best. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Any questions, inshaa?
Sure. You said, well, I think I understood that you distinguished the war of Constantinople and one war before that.
The Great War.
I thought there was that only one war.
No, the Europeans and the...
Will be landing in.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That's the war. Yeah.
Can you tell us which was the order? What's the reason for these?
The reason, I think it came slightly late. We covered it at the beginning. There will be a large multitude of people from the Europeans that will be taking security and safeguarding in Medina. They would have deserted the Europeans. They would have left the religion of the Europeans. And the Europeans would go to A'maq or Dabik, the place in Sham, and they will land there with all of their might, in order to take them people back. Yeah. To kill them, to fight them, to take them back, take them to task. The Muslims of Medina at that time, the city of the Prophet ﷺ, who are giving the safe haven, and we went through the fact that the Muslim is upon his conditions. Yeah, he makes a promise and he sticks to it, whether he gives it or whether he makes it. And then we covered the point, if you're in this country, we are on a promise, so we honor that promise also. And if you don't honor the promise, you don't even smell the fragrance of Jannah. They honored that promise. They said, no, we are taking care of these people. These are now our brothers. Meaning these people had come to Islam. Then we discussed the fact that it is Allah who is the most wise. That from amongst the army or the ranks of the Europeans, such a great, vast multitude of people would have come to Islam. So sometimes when we look at these wars and so on and so forth, we think, obviously, destruction and so on and so forth. But Allah is the best of planners. And Allah is Al-Hakim, the most wise. There's some benefit from that we might not be able to directly see in the short term. So they're going to say, give us back these people, and they're going to say, no, we're not. And these people that Rasulullah said are going to be the best fighters of the earth at that time. These people are going to be amazing fighters. And they, alongside the other Muslims of Medina, will go and then meet the army in Dabik or in Sham. And the fighting will take place firstly, and some hadiths mention the first day the Muslims will take an allegiance that we're not going to come back alive. Meaning they just knew that we're finished. Yeah, fierce fighting will occur. And the second day they do the same. The third day they do the same, but there's no one who's being overcoming the other. And then the hadith mentions that the following day, the fourth day, the Ummah will overcome. Alhamdulillah. And it's at that time that they'll be relaxing, they'll be told that the Dajjal is here, but that won't be the reality. Later they'll realize that the Dajjal is actually Isa will also descend and so on and so forth. As I said, when we look at these narrations, give the narrative, Aqidah, and what's that Sunnah, what's our holding of the Sunnah about, and what we hold as belief, and how is that going to help us at that time? And what we've realized is that even in these, actually, it exemplifies the principles that we try to hold on to even today. ijtima' ala al-haq, unity upon the truth, because a large portion of the people will desert. There'll be deserters whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never forgive. So we went through the hadith in some detail. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And Allah knows best.
Sheikh, the fight with Constantinople, is that going to be after?
After, not before. After.
But it appears that after that war, the Dajjal will take place. So
Yeah. Constantinople is after, towards the end. After that war.
That was in the time of Isa then.
Isa is, of course. Yeah. But that's why I went through the fact that Constantinople has been conquered before.
Yes.
Yeah, and the Rasul has spoken about this and the reward concerning this. Hence, you hear when I mentioned Yazid and
Yes.
Allah knows best. Allah knows best. By the way, concerning Yazid, if anyone is interested, Shaykh Sami ibn Taymiyyah, I believe, has the most clear, you could say, position concerning him, that we don't overly praise him, and nor do we curse him. Yeah, he's a position in the middle. Some of the scholars have said that we don't invoke the mercy of Allah upon him, and so on, so on. In the big ulama have said that Ibn al-Jawzi has an entire book, Radd al-Muta'assib al-Anid, a refutation of the one who is blindly following out to the position of glorifying Yazid. This is a scholar of hadith from the Ummah, big scholars. So, we leave the affair to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we leave it at that. And then the whole thing has opened up now where some people are, and it's true, some people are more inclined towards glorifying Yazid, and they're falling into that kind of the Nasibi kind of way where they've gone to the total extreme. And of course then we have the other extreme, those that take Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and in position of that they curse Yazid and is a disbeliever and so on and so forth. Of course this is 100% incorrect. So Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah in the middle, and as Shaykh Abul Hasan said, they stay silent as to what occurred in the era of the Sahaba, or between the Sahaba. But Allah knows best. We'll
what's the authentic description of the Dajjal? Because I've heard a few different things, that one eye is covered with flesh, the other is looks like a grape, and then kafar on his forehead. Then other things like it'd be short, broad with like curly hair.
We're going to actually cover that, inshallah.
Alright.
But as I said, these narrations, especially concerning the affairs of the unseen and so on and so forth, on the face of it, you may think that there's a lot of contradictions, but there isn't. Yeah. Allah knows best. So we'll cover that in some detail, inshallah.
Nowadays we have nuclear war, we have rocket, we have missile.
Yeah.
When the great war comes, we will be fighting with lances, swords, pneumatic swords, lances.
Allah knows best. Allah knows best. No, I didn't say the door of Tawbah is closed. I said the door of Tawbah is closed for those that deserted. Yeah, that's a clarification. Maybe you may said, for those that were the deserters, Allah won't accept the Tawbah from them. There's no Tawbah for them. And yes, the door of Tawbah is closed when the sun is raised from the west. That's correct. Not the appearance of Dajjal. But as for those that were the deserters of the army, then there's no Tawbah for them. That's what I said. Allah knows best. So I hope that's clarified, inshallah.